All right. Good morning. Oh, there's one. I'll take one. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right. I've been gone for, I got a little bit of feedback. I don't know if you can you hear that, or is that just me? Been gone for a week. Feels like it's been a month since I've been here. I only missed one Sunday, but then it feels like I've been gone for a lot longer than that. Those of you who went to Red River with us, I want you to talk to them about that experience and what it was like. Your wife is in the front, Brian. Your wife is right down here. Come on in front of everybody. How many of you have gone to Red River Family Encampment? Yeah. Please go. Well, I know you guys go. I got your name wrong in front of everybody while we were there. That was embarrassing. If you have not gone, can I just ask you to take a look at it next year? It is a great. It starts on Sunday morning. It goes to Wednesday. You get Saturday night, right? Saturday night. You're right. You get to dump off your kids, full babysitting privileges, so you have no kids in the morning. That's not the only reason to go. But it is nice. It's really nice for y'all. I haven't had that for a while, but it's just fantastic. Some of the speakers that we get to listen to are great. The afternoon, you're off. You can go up the mountain. You can just spend time fishing, like Chance Heron did. You can do nothing. I read, I relaxed, and I spent time with my wife. And then in the evening, you have a couple of more speakers. One of the coolest things that they do, and I absolutely love, is they do young preachers from 8 to 18. Some of these young guys can out-preach most men. It is absolutely incredible, and to see some of the congregations, what they're doing with their young men, it was fantastic to watch. So I want to encourage you, this is always the fourth Sunday of June. So put it on your calendar, make some plans, and you may say, I got to take a vacation. I can't think of a better vacation than to go with your family to the mountains. Well, the high was, 81, I think, one day, but most of the time it was in the mid-70s. In the morning, you're at high 40s, low 50s. So it was absolutely great. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, John. How are you this morning?
Phenomenal. Good to see you. That's another story. Morning. Okay. Then I got to see my son at the end of the week. Since he lives in New Mexico, I wanted to go see him, and it was just great to see him in his element. He asked me, he said, Dad, will you help me put our pool up? No, it's 104 degrees outside. But we did. We had to level the ground. We put his pool up, and we had a great time. Just spending some time with them. And so it was a good week. Y'all, how are you doing? You doing well?
I'm fantastic.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Anybody else? Are you working through this workbook, as a couple? Yes. I'll be honest. Sally and I don't go through all the questions together. I mean, she reads, and the one thing that we got to do on our trip was listen to the chapters as we were traveling, and then we were able to discuss a lot of those things. So take some time during the week and do the work. Put the work into it, because that's where you find the most, what's the word I'm trying to think of, the most growth that you will have within your marriage. And so make sure you're trying to do that. All right, so chapter 2 is where we're going to be. Everybody read chapter 2? Went through the questions of chapter 2? I think chapter 3 and 4 we can be able to put together next week. I was going to try to do session 2 and session 3, but to be really honest, I just don't think we can get through that much material today, because the second chapter, or session 2, is full, isn't it? You are really showing if you have not done your work at all, because you're like, don't ask me. Your eyes get a little bit bigger. I did that through all of my schooling. Don't ask me a question. All right, so the first question I want to look at and give me some answers on this one. The very first question, so you have your workbook, go ahead and you can open it up to question number 1. On page 25, Emerson opens the chapter by asserting that husbands and wives communicate in code. You know what one of the biggest problems that I have to deal with when people come to me and ask about marriage counseling? What's the number one issue that I have to deal with? Communication is the biggest one. Where the marriage fails is usually within communication. And we're going to get into that for sure. So I want you to answer this question. I put a red star in this one. Now listen, stay calm while we answer the question. How often does your spouse seem to communicate in code, and is it hard for you to decipher or understand? Go.
Never.
All the time. I'll go with that.
That was code. That was code of I am lost. Yes. All right, so we have two guys saying really difficult, right? All right, so guys, jump in on this. Why is it so hard for you to understand code? Oh, okay.
We got blue and they got pink and they all...
Okay. Good. That's really good. You guys read your chapter. That's really good. We're going to get to the code in just a second. We're going to get to the sunglasses and the hearing aids and the hose for sure by the end of the class.
I think one of the things that makes it hard for men is that sometimes women, their body language and the words that they're saying don't always match.
There are so many things I'm not going to touch in this class. You understand that, right? Like we're not going there. But that's right, you know? You can say the right words. I'll tell on my wife a little bit. She had to learn not just to say the right words at work, but the facial had to change too. And her principal said, you said the right thing, but your face said a whole new story, right? And there's times when, yes, I hear the words, but I understand the body language. The other language that is coming through to me is not the same. All right, that's good, good. Anybody else? Girls, ladies, sorry, women. I don't want to call you. Code. Talk to me. Is it the same for you? Going the other way.
I've had to learn to be more blunt.
You had to learn to be more blunt to Brian.
Take this over there. Not, hey, it'd be nice if this was over there. You know, take it.
The woman of my dreams.
Anyone else? I have counseling sessions open for Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 to 3. 1 to 3. Anybody else want to jump on that? Ladies, want to jump in? Is it hard?
Ours was hard because I always like to tell him when I'm sad, give me chocolate, give me a hug. But he said it's not fair because he said it's like I'm giving him all the answers right now, but the test is like later. But I said, I think it's easy. I'm trying to be upfront. Here's what I want. Here's what to do. There's no code. But
He's a man. That's what he is. Yes. Yes, yes. So there's that code. So I think when you look at those answers, it went from constantly, often, not now and then, and seldom. Are most of us on the often and kind of constantly? Where are you guys at? Can you give me a little bit of a, I kind of want to know, where are you at? Often, near. So when you look at question number 1, when you look at the question, you know, how often does your spouse seem to communicate in code? Is it constantly, often, now and then, or seldom? I want to know. I'm just trying to get a feel for the room. Where are you at? Are you at the more often, constantly, or are you towards now and then and seldom?
Okay, does the question mean they speak in code or they speak in code that I don't understand?
Yes, so that's the understanding side of it, because if you finish the question, how often does your spouse seem to communicate in code that is hard to decipher and understand? So I'm gonna. Some of you are scared to answer, but this is a safe place until you leave the room. Right?
I've had to, we had one child, he was a boy.
Yeah.
I had to explain to my wife, You don't hint to a boy to do something. You don't say, it would be nice if you picked up your room. You say, go pick up your room now.
Right. Yeah,
And that's the way we are.
right. And what's that?
The girl's not any different.
Go on, talk to us. What do you mean?
Tell her exactly what to do too, at least mine. Mine may be different than other ones, but.
I love the possessive kind of, mine's like this, what's yours like? I like it. I think you're right. So he gives us two examples in the book. Do you remember the examples? One was the guy that comes home for the anniversary. He finally remembered, he thought he did really good, but what was the mistake? It was a birthday card, not an anniversary card. So he opened it up and he read it. He goes, it's the right words. He felt good. He remembered. He's going to come home. And then, as a guy, when you think you've done a good job, there's some things that's going to play out for that rest of that time and that romantic evening. It's our anniversary. But she comes, she opens up the card and says, what? Happy birthday, right? So let's talk about that example. How does she react in that example? She was mad. She was upset. You really don't care? Okay. Anybody else?
Can I tell you, I thought she really overreacted.
Me too.
I mean, you should know your husband by this point, because that, I could see that as something that you would do.
Wow.
But I don't think you don't love me because of it.
I'll hold it over your head for a long time.
Hey, I love the honesty. Love the honesty. Okay, yeah, there's a little bit of maybe possibly overreaction. But she could feel hurt about that. Did you put enough thought into it? You would have asked the same question to me. Did you read all the words, John? And I would have said no, and I just put it in the card.
Also, since Sally's talking, I thought the guy, I'm like, dude, if you're gonna make the effort to go to the store, read the card. Like, just read the card. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I've had my dumb moments, but if I'm gonna go to the store and pick out a card, read every word that's on there. Look and see what the pictures are. Make sure you're gonna be all right. Analyze words and give it. Like, that doesn't take 10 minutes.
He could have used his pen to like scratch out birthday, like if the word.
You guys are showing way too much of yourselves on this.
If you get a really good anniversary card, don't be afraid to give it again 5 years later.
You don't have to write in it. The writing's already there. New envelope. She doesn't know nothing. I think the point that he was trying to make was simple mistake, a bit of an overreaction, and we've all been there, right? In our marriages. Simple mistakes, overreactions. But there was that communication, right? And because of the lack of communication and because we both had intentions up here of what was supposed to play out and what we wanted from our spouse, they did not live up to some of those expectations. And then the entire night was obliterated, right? And so this is where they were not listening. We're going to get to that in just a second. The second example was do you remember what the second example was? He was on a trip. He comes home early.
Go get the kids.
Yeah, she said, like, what are you doing home so early? Well, thank goodness you are here. Here's the list. Boom, 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 boom. Go get all that done. And he wanted to come home and see his wife, right? He had a totally different idea. Again, there's that expectation thing, right? In marriage, I'm thinking it should be like this, but then it happens like this, and then we don't communicate, and we're in a different place, right?
No, that's exactly what we just said. The guys like to have direct to the point.
Yeah.
Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And that's exactly what she did. She said, okay, here's the list, go get it done.
Right. And he was like, hey, I've been gone for so long. Why aren't you happy to see me? And said, oh, thank goodness you're here. Now some of the burden's off of me. And again.
It wasn't just that.
Go ahead.
He had a whole hour's worth of her time planned on the airplane trip home. Did he send a text saying, hey, I've got ideas tonight, don't make plans? No.
I didn't write the book, right? I didn't write the book. I didn't input on the book. I wasn't on the airplane.
But I mean,
But I've learned that right there. I've learned, don't try to surprise her because you won't do it right.
But I mean, for him to think that she had nothing else planned in her mom world,
Yeah.
She would go, oh yes, let's drop everything and just stare at each other.
You can't send
That's
a
not reality. That's not marriage.
text on the plane? What are you talking about?
What was that? What was that, Mary?
You can't send a text on the plane?
I love how you guys are going at it. That's good. That's good stuff. So the communication thing is such an important part of it. Go to number 5. If you're in your workbooks, I want to look at number 5. And I love what he said in this one. It's on page 29. He talked about this, but he talked about flipping the light switch, right? And it's one of those things, we try to do this in our marriage. We talk in code, or we're not deciphering the code. We're not listening to our mates the way that we need to. And he said, it's like walking into a room and you're flipping the switch and the light's not coming on, right? But what do we normally do? We just keep trying to flip the switch to make sure, I just need this to work. I just need this to work. And I like what he says in number 5. Craziness happens when you keep doing the same thing over and over and get the same ill effect. What was that called? Do you guys remember what that's called? Insanity, right? And so what happens when we're not communicating and we're not trying to talk and decipher the codes that we're trying to get and talking and communicating with our spouses, then it becomes, our marriage really becomes insane, doesn't it? It becomes lost. That was a quick yes on something. Yeah, and so we have that issue for sure. Anything else that you guys picked up through this part of the book so far?
John, one thing I've noticed with Mary Lynn and I, which is a good thing, mostly good, is as the years have gone by, it's amazing how the code has changed, and you understand the code better, of course, and you're able to deal with it. But just like the light switch thing,
yeah.
Now there's a ton of times I walk into the room and the light's already on. I mean, I don't have to turn it on or off, or I don't even have to think about it. And there's a ton of times when it's really weird. And a lot of you, I'm sure, have this. A lot of you that have been married a long time have this. We think the same. I'm thinking what she's thinking already. She's thinking what I'm thinking. We have the same answers a lot of times. Yeah. It's kind of like that joke where you start looking like your dog, if you have a dog. I mean, you start, looking like each other. You start doing things. I know that's a little weird.
It was odd, but that's okay. I know what you're talking about. But, Barry, let me ask you something. How did you guys get to that point?
A lot of insanity before that. A lot of work through everything that you have to work through.
No, a lot of looking at each other and wanting to do what was right for their spouse. They both work hard to do what's right for their family.
Okay, so
I think
Right for my family.
that, like I felt like when I was reading that chapter, is that the author kind of gave this impression that men can only see through blue glasses and can only hear with blue hearing aids. But what it should have been is men should be trying to wear the pink glasses and wear the pink hearing aids, and women should be trying to wear blue glasses. I mean, it almost sounded like men can only see through a blue lens and women can only see through a pink lens, when you can take the lenses off your face and put them on your partner's face. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know, it seemed like that whole pink glasses and pink hearing aids thing was reductive and like an excuse, not.
Yeah. No, let's talk about that, because I think we're on the same page, maybe coming to it a little bit differently, but I think we can talk about what you're saying and what you're saying and combine the two, right? So,
I think it happens with years. Kyle and I have not been married near as long as several of y'all.
Yeah.
We're just at 5, and we're starting to figure that out.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I can try to put things like, I know what you're saying now. I know what's coming across. 2 years ago?
Yeah.
It was blue or blue. Like, those options. Why aren't you picking this up? Why? But now it's,
And so I think once you've been married a little bit longer, it's easier to change glasses, and you can kind of pick up what they're saying.
I think it's time, and it's making a decision to take off your glasses as well. So let's go ahead and we'll talk about this. Do you understand what, I apologize, I do not have blue or black. So what was his point? And we're going to come back to this in just a second, okay? Men wear blue glasses and blue hearing aids. What is he trying to say about that? It's our perspective. Our perspective is from the male perspective. How do we see things, guys? How do you see things?
It either works or it doesn't.
It's on or off. Yep. Works or not. Somebody else.
We're very black and white.
Okay, black and white. Anybody else? You're out. This side of the room.
It's a problem to solve.
It's a problem to solve. There's a problem. We want to solve it. We have the answers. We're going to get to the end of that. Yeah. It's really hard this is not a parenting class, but it's really hard as a dad to let my kids fail, right? Not in a bad way, but they have to work through the process. Yeah, because for me, I see the problem. Here's the answer. Let's fix it. Okay. Anybody over here?
Kind of more just kind of expand on that. There's a problem to be solved. It's like there's a problem that has to be solved. I have to be able to fix it.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Okay, how do we hear things, guys? How do we hear things? Are you getting hearing aids? I'm talking about getting me some.
Very slowly, one word at a time, maybe in different languages. It's hard for us to hear.
Okay, it's hard. Why is it hard for us to hear, though? You don't have to answer. I'll leave it to the class. If you want to answer, answer. But
I don't have a problem hearing,
okay.
but we don't always hear what evidently we were supposed to hear.
We don't always hear good.
We don't always hear meaning.
Can I give you an example, because it's pretty good. So I'm standing in general boarding, because I'm cheap and I'm not TSA pre-check. Standing in general boarding, and I see this guy walk up beside me, and then I hear this lady behind me, Greg. When she got to the fourth Greg, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. She's like, Greg. Yes. And gave me the old,
Yeah.
She's like, you're not TSA pre-check. All right, great. Probably another list of things he's not. And he's like, okay. And she's like, you're not TSA pre-check.
Get out of the line.
Then he said an audible, okay. You are standing in the TSA pre-check line. They're not going to let you in. Oh, I guess I better stay with you, huh? It's like,
That is a very good example of selective hearing.
I think
that is awesome.
I think another example, take an example from the book, when he walked in and she was like, boom, 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 one thing at a time. Like, if you're gonna talk about something you need him to hear, take it one step at a time. If you tell him 4 things at once,
Okay.
he's not gonna hear all 4 things. He's gonna remember 1, maybe 2. You know, give him one thing at a time.
Okay.
Work through that one, then go to the next one.
Good. Anybody else?
How about just pick the most important one and forget all the rest?
How about make a list of the things you want and put it on the kitchen counter?
We put it on the refrigerator because I go there often, obviously. So he knows that I'm going to read it when I get there.
Let me do jobs. Instead of giving him 5, just put them in order like you want them done, and he just leaves that and he will conventionally.
Yeah. And he'll get.
I get one of those lists and I go, I'm not doing that one.
I like it. When the lists are good and communicating is good, but we as men, we don't hear the same as women hear, right? I mean, I get, like, when Sally wants to communicate with me, if I'm not looking at her, there's nothing going in, right? She knows I have to have full attention, look eye to eye. Then she talks to me, and then I can go off to my own world again. No, I have selective hearing. I don't really care about a whole lot. But I want you to describe to me, though, not the, and what you're saying are good things about how to communicate. I want to ask you, guys, think about this a little bit more. How do you listen? Is it through a logic, mathematical mind? Is it, what is it? How do you listen? How do you hear words? Do you understand the difference? I'm not saying how to become better at it. I want to ask you the question, how do you hear it?
I think generally speaking, most men do not listen for emotional content.
We do not listen for emotional content. That's good. That's good. You want to keep going on it?
We listen, but that's how we don't listen.
Good.
We're there to get the information to solve the problem.
Okay.
We're the facts.
Okay.
And we will provide a solution, and that's all we're interested in.
Okay.
Where it is, when it needs to be done. That's what we need.
Okay.
I listen for key points.
Okay.
It's the same way I read instructions, same way I did school. Key points. So if you're going through instructions, you got one, install this. You don't read the part under it of how to install it. Sometimes you use the wrong screws whenever you're installing, right?
Good.
You just have to install this. Oh, these screws fit. Cool.
Okay, that's really good. Sometimes when our wives will speak to us, we hear certain things, but we miss the middle, and the middle was more important than the actual thing. And it kind of goes back to the emotional side of things. Like they'll say something, but there's more content there, and we're not listening. Yes.
Sometimes listening is all they want. They just want you to listen. They don't want you to fix it. You don't have to solve it.
That's chapter something else.
So I think.
But you're right. I hear you.
One of the things, like, this is not something Heather and I had to figure out, but we had to figure it out with our daughter, is when she would come to us, okay, is my job to fix the problem that you want to talk about, or is my job to listen to you talk about the problem? And you have to, like, it took me a long time to step out of, I needed to fix her problem, which her problem was she needed to talk about the problem.
Right. Okay. So that's actually really good for me. So when I'm listening to people, and I do this all the time, not even with my wife, when I'm talking to anybody and they're talking to me about a problem or just talking to me, I find out what's the problem, and I'm already fixing it in my mind. When I'm starting to fix it in my mind, what have I done to my hearing aids? I've turned them off. I have no idea what's going on. And a lot of times we turn our hearing aids off when we're trying to, when our wives are trying to talk to us. Does that make sense to you? All right, I want to jump over here really quick. Ladies, how do you see things? We see things logically, mathematically minded, usually. Not me. I'm very emotional. I might be the woman in the relationship. I don't know yet. But
The color of that shirt, you're getting real.
hey, it's salmon. It's not pink. It's salmon, the manly shirt. I have a tie that matches, but I didn't wear it. So, ladies, how do you see things? Just tell me, when you put on your glasses, what do you see?
We tend to dance around what we really need so that we don't accidentally hurt someone's feelings.
Okay, dancing around so we don't hurt people's feelings. Go ahead, keep going.
Everything's connected.
Oh, talk about that.
If something happens, it always reminds or reflects back on something else that has similarly happened, or you can make connections for pretty much, we can make connections for anything. A trip to the grocery store will lead to what happened last week that made us upset. And so everything's connected and everything ties back to emotions.
Good. That was really good. Anybody? I created that dumb look when I got married. After that, I was like, I'm just confused through life.
John, next week you need to bring the clip from Inside Out when the mom and dad and the girl are sitting at the table and the emotions.
Done. That's a great. That is fantastic. We should have communicated that a little earlier, but that's fine. I know, but I gotta get things. Okay, I can get it done. Anybody else, ladies? How do you see things? I really want to hear from you.
I think sometimes you just want somebody to listen to it. Our daughter came in last night, needed like rough time, and we just needed somebody to listen to her. Pull out some chocolate out of the freezer, chocolate, listening, done, 10 minutes. Like, it was just easy, and it was like, that's what they need sometimes.
Right.
They don't need anybody to solve them, the problems, or anything like that.
right?
While Dad quietly faded away to the back of the house.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. If we see more logically, ladies, how do you normally see and hear things usually? A little bit more emotional. Are we okay with saying that out loud? Are you guys okay with that? When we're talking to you, what do you hear? I'm really asking you what you're actually hearing, not how to fix it, but what are you hearing when we speak to you? So it's not always the words that you hear, it's the tone of voice. It goes back to whoever said body language. You can actually come to that as well.
Sometimes I feel like I take it defensively, like it's criticism.
Okay.
What I'm doing or how I'm doing things. And it may not be, it's just, but we have a family that's very dry and sarcastic, but we've always said that there's a grain of truth in that sarcasm.
Sure. Ladies, how do you hear your husband when he does communicate?
Sometimes harshness.
Sometimes harshness, okay. Okay.
It's not intended, but we hear it.
You know, he also talked about what are men really good at? Silence. Right? When we know we're in trouble, we shut it down, right? And we go and retreat, and we kind of stay back. So, not you, Joe. Get it done, Jay! All right.
I just get in deeper and deeper.
I'm going to give you a shovel at the end of class, is what you're going to do. Ladies, when you hear us retreat and not talk, what do you hear? Not caring? Somebody else? Same thing? Not caring? Anybody else? So actually, silence is language within a marriage. And so it's one of those things. I like what you were talking about earlier, Lance and Barry, that at the beginning, it is hard to take the communication time to understand the other partner, right? There's going to be those moments, and I was the very same way, and I still am, actually. I find myself not taking my blue glasses off so that I can try to understand what Sally's trying to say to me and see it from her perspective and try to understand. It's easier for me to just leave everything on. This is the way I want to do it. This is what I want out of it, and this is the way it's going to happen. But again, you can take these off. Now, how do you do that? It's in the book. What does the book also go to? It's not just these two. There's something else. What's the third thing that we talked about? For those of you who've read. I'll draw it. No. Now. Oh! What is it? We are. He talks about a what? Talks about an air hose. And the reason my air hose looks like that, the pool hoses look like this, and they frustrated me yesterday. So we have air hoses. How did he talk about these air hoses?
They keep getting stepped on.
They keep getting stepped on. Okay, well, how do we step on each other's air hoses? Not providing what you need. Well, tell me what she needs. So she needs love, and the air hose goes into a what? He called it there's a tank, and what's in the tank? You need love, right? Well, what's in our tank? What do we want? Now, somebody did say something to me. R-E-S-P-C-T. Somebody said to me, though, today, even, they were like, I want respect, too. I want some of those things that you're talking about, and men do need love, and I will agree with it. Read chapter 3. It explains that one, okay? This is our primal, this is the foundation of what women need and what men need. Now, do we also give respect to our wives? 100%, yes, right? But we're talking about primal, the foundational needs that we need to have within our marriage. Do you understand? Yes? I need read chapter 3. He does explain it a little bit more. And I believe a little bit in chapter 4 as well. Because I think somebody talked about that even last week in our class. Okay. How do we step and hurt this air hose? How do we do it? Okay, I was listening. Somebody sent me a podcast this morning. They were like, hey, you need to listen to this. I just listened to it. It was really good. So I listened to it. It was actually about Darryl Strawberry. Do you remember him? He and his wife wrote a book, and I'm going to try and get it, and when I get the time, I'll read it. But they talked about their life, their marriage, and the only thing that saved it was God. It wasn't a book, and it wasn't anybody else. It was God coming into their life, and they were able to fix everything. And so... And what they just said was God first, and then they were able to work on their marriage and work through so many different things. Ladies, how do you step on our air hose? How do we do it? I'm not putting you down. What happened to the relaxed feel we just had?
Not respecting the way they're trying to lead the family.
Okay, maybe not respecting the way they were leading their family. Anybody else? Huh? Yeah, so we're maybe not taking the glasses off and trying to look at the other perspective of what's trying to happen, or maybe our hearing aids need to come off and try to communicate a little bit better. Yeah, harsh and critical. When men feel, guys, when you feel like you've been, it's harsh or critical towards you, what is your first reaction? Honest? Huh? Okay, snap? Don't talk about it. Okay, there's that shutdown, go to silence. Counterattack. Do you remember how he talks about that in the book?
A little dough with the sharp hooks.
A little what?
A little pretty dough with the sharp hooks poking holes in his air hoses.
Yeah, we talking about the hooves. Yeah, with I thought it was really cool that he uses almost like a deer analogy there for guys. But yeah, poking those holes, and you're not putting anything into the respect tank. Hold on, I wrote the graph down in my. So when he says in there, when you're not meeting the deepest needs of him or her, then expect negativity. I like that in there. Like, we expect everything to be okay, but we're not meeting the needs of that husband or wife. Do you remember what this? Without love. Remember this? Without love, what's the reaction? Huh? She reacts. Now, without, what's the bottom? Without respect. What happens? He reacts. And do you see the cycle? So that's what he's talking about. And so it's one of those moments that we have to understand that when we're not depositing love into this love tank, we've heard that before in other books, right? You've heard that over the years. When we're not taking care of this and we're not acting in a loving manner, we're literally choking that air hose. And we wonder why does she react the way she reacts? Why are we not communicating? What's going on? And it's the same thing on both sides. Let me ask you a question. Ladies, how do you show, or how can you show that you respect your husband in that way? What's a great way of doing it? Just give me a quick example.
I'd say thank you when they do a task that
Yeah.
you ask them to do instead of criticizing how they did it.
Yeah, instead of saying, hey, good job on number 1, there's 4 more. Right? Yeah, come back and go, okay, I like that, good. Anybody else?
For me, it's trusting instead of questioning everything. Trusting that you did a good job,
Yes.
not questioning my 1,000 check marks. Did you do this? Trusting instead of questioning.
I love that. Anybody else? First or second? Trust the women. Okay, last thing I want to tell you before we have number 14 was something I wanted to look at. The one thing he does talk about in this chapter that we need to understand is that you have to believe that the person is not trying to hurt you. They have good intention. They are having good intention. They're not trying to hurt. That's why communication is such an important thing. Learning to communicate and it's kind of going back to what you were saying there. okay, is that their intentions are not bad, they're good. That's why I take off the glasses and try to figure it out. Communicating and understanding one another is the key thing within our marriage, okay? And this is really trying to help us here of understanding. Listen, we hear differently, we see differently, and that's okay because that's how God sees us and that's how God created us. It's not a bad thing, but let's make sure we understand what we need to accomplish within our marriage and build those tanks up, and you can have a great, great marriage, okay? We'll end there. God bless. Love you guys, and we'll see you next week.